Joy Reid released this little video that she made outside. I don't know what this is all about, but she is criticizing the Democratic Party for, I guess, not being forthcoming about what they really plan to do. And it's kind of just up in the air, whether it's Biden or Kamala. And she seems kind of aggravated about that. And she's going to admit that obviously there's some issues with Joe Biden. But she's also going to tell you she's still going to support him regardless. Like, people are really willing to support a senile dude who's having trouble walking, doesn't know if he's sitting in a chair or not, is forgetting years and people's names and things like that. They'll take anything because they're afraid of Orange Man Bad. If anything, this is a moment for people to coalesce around a third party movement and really build something in this country. But no, you know, the mainstream media pundits, they're there to back the Democratic Party regardless. That's why they have those jobs. Check this out, fam.
Y'all just tell me who the nominee is going to be. Let me know when you guys are finished fighting amongst yourselves who I got to vote for in November to keep Hitler out the White House. That's all I want to know. Who I got to vote for to keep Hitler out the White House. Y'all do your thing. Play in traffic all you want in front of these Republicans, acting a fool in front of these people instead of privately declaring your stuff. But don't text me no more, because I'm not taking no more of these texts.
So, a couple of things there. She basically spills the beans and lets you know that Democrat Party officials are texting her. So that's how close she is with Democrat politicians. I don't know if corporate media should have that type of relationship with politicians. Seems biased. Seems a little biased. And two, there was something else that she said that I thought was kind of funny, where she said, "Stop it, boy for lug." People said they don't want the wig back. People said they don't want it back. That part. Dwayne, this is another thing that she mentioned. She said Hitler is not on the ticket. It's interesting that she said that it's really easy for a lot of these pundits to point fingers at Donald Trump and call him Hitler. And whatever you think about Donald Trump, it is what it is. At the same time, they're not willing to point that finger at Netanyahu, who is literally committing a genocide against the Palestinian people, who has said very nasty rhetoric about the Palestinian people, who said the word Amalek, which we know what that means about the Palestinian people. They're not willing to point the finger at him. And Netanyahu is supposed to arrive to speak in Congress July 24th. Because Orange Man Bad.
Just let me know when you guys are finished figuring it out, Democrats, because I know y'all the freak out people. Go ahead and freak out, have your conversation, and then let me know who I got to vote for to keep Hitler out the White House. That's it. I'm done. Oh, and by the way, if it's Biden in a coma, I'm going to vote for Biden in a coma.
You guys see what's happening here? She just told you she's willing to vote for someone in a coma. That's how desperate people are. That tells me the type of despair that people have. If it's Biden in a coma, I'll vote for Biden in a coma. What is wrong with people? Like, what? Oh my God, it's too much.
I don't even really particularly like the guy. A lot of his policies, don't like him. He's not Donald Trump, right? Yeah. Hitler, White House. We keeping him out.
Did you hear what she just said? Hold up. Listen to what she says listen to this. I'm wondering how long Joy is going to keep her job. Listen.
I got to vote for to keep Hitler out the White House. That's it. I'm done. Oh, and by the way, if it's Biden in a coma, I'm going to vote for Biden in a coma. I don't even really particularly like the guy. A lot of his policies, don't like him.
So that's Joy Reid admitting to you that she don't even really like Joe Biden. Not only that, she doesn't care for a lot of his policies, not some of his policies, but a lot of his policies, but she's going to vote for him anyway. This is another example of people voting against their own interests. If you don't like a lot of his policies, why are you going to vote for that candidate? Just so you don't get Donald Trump? That's it. Is that it? I don't know. Like what?
He's not Donald Trump, right? Yeah. Hitler, White House, we keeping them out, keeping Project 2025 out. That's all I care about. Up and down the ballot, from the rooter to the tutor, school board, all the way up to White House and everything in between. Governors, members of Congress. I'm just going to vote all the way down to keep these people out. The Project 2025 thing is the whole Republican Party. At this point, it's not about Biden. It is not about him. It's above me now. There's a Best Western next door.
I'm going to debunk something about Project 25 that I think a lot of you may not be aware of.
It is about keeping Donald Trump and his Project 2025 friends out of power. That's it for me, y'all. Y'all let me know what you think. And another thing, I've always got another thing. You guys do know that in 2020, y'all Democrats had choices of young people. You had a young LGBTQ guy, Mayor Pete. You had a Latino. You had Kamala Harris. You had Liz Warren. You had all these choices.
Identity politics. So you see what she's doing? You had someone who was LGBTQ. You had women, female candidates, but you decided to push the old guy.
That were all younger than Biden, fresher and newer than Biden. And you know who y'all picked to be the president and the nominee? Joe Biden. He beat all the young people. So yes, we have a gerontocracy problem on the Democratic side. Way too many of these oldie goldies that don't seem to want to sit down and retire. But when given the choice between the young and fresh and Joe Biden, y'all picked Joe Biden. That was it.
But that's because people like Joy Reid that are part of corporate media, they heavily pushed Joe Biden and they smeared a lot of these other candidates. They heavily smeared Bernie Sanders. I think we all remember this. They were a little bit nicer to Elizabeth Warren because she said she was a capitalist, but they kind of smeared her too. Like, they really propped up Joe Biden. They defended him during the Democrat primary debates in 2020 over and over again. And he was having gaffes then. He was having difficulty on the debate stage back then. Not as bad as it is now, but it was happening back then. But that's just the reality, folks. She was a part of the problem. MSNBC and CNN, all of them, they were the ones telling people that Biden is the right person because he's not too far to the left and he's not too far to the right. He's right in that center and he can work on both sides of the aisle. Remember that whole thing? Both sides of the aisle? How's that working out?
You picked. So he's in there because Democrats actually picked him in the first place. So just keep that in mind, that you've been given options in the past, and this is what you picked. And nobody stepped up to choose to run against him in the primary. So once again, Democrats went out and voted and picked. If you try to undo that choice, like 57 million some odd Democrats voted in these primaries, so what are you going to do? You're going to just tell them, F off, we're going to pick somebody different that's not him, or Kamala Harris, who was on that ticket too, on those ballots? That's not democracy. This choice has been made. And so again, unless he decides to walk away, this is your choice.
She just said that's not democracy. This choice has been made. The choice has already been made for you. The corporate establishment and the military industrial complex have selected the person that you are going to have. And if you don't accept that, that's not democracy.
Like when you go to a wedding, you got chicken or fish. You can eat chicken or fish or just be hungry. Or like when I was growing up in my house, it's what mom made for dinner or go to bed. There's your choices. You don't always get choices in your love. You get what mom made for dinner or take your ass to bed.
Except people actually have more choices. People have other candidates that they can vote for. So I get what she's saying about you had to eat the food that your mom made. My mom was that way too. You know, that's what she cooked. That's what you ate. There was no, I'm going to be picky and not have this or whatever. But the difference is we do have other options. There are other candidates that we can choose. Whether you want to choose Jill or RFK or Cornel West or whatever, you have other people that you can choose. You don't have to pick Joe Biden or Donald Trump. That's the thing. So that analogy that she gave, it would work if we didn't have other choices, but we do have other choices.
And in this case, it's either what mom made for dinner or Hitler. I'm voting for whoever ain't Hitler, and it ain't him. And I'm going all the way down that ballot, rooted to the tutor, school board, up to the White House. This is about power and about picking not Hitler. That's it. That's it. That's me. Okay, now I'm really done. Bye.
It's about picking not Hitler. Joe Biden is actually aiding and abetting a genocide in Gaza of the Palestinian people. You know, And here's another one, because this isn't all of it. Here's another one. So this guy, Victor Shi, by the way, he's another DNC shill. He's another one. You've probably seen him on MSNBC a couple of times. Wow. A must watch from Joy Reid on the immunity decision. It's above Biden for me. I don't care about his age. So here she goes, trying to defend Joe Biden's age. We're not going to play all of this, but listen to this.
Hey guys. So we know that over the last, several days, there's been a lot of conversation about a certain old person, an old infirm person, who had a really bad debate last week. We've all had these conversations. Everybody's group chats are blowing up about it. All the op-ed pages, the New York Times is telling everybody what to do. All the op-ed, all the smart people are writing think pieces and such about what should be done next as far as the candidates are concerned on the ballot. Well, today the Supreme Court just made all of that completely irrelevant, because the Leonard Leo's hand-picked six, the Federalist Society six, the Leonard Leo six on the court, just declared days before this nation celebrates its independence, presumably from the British King, that the President of the United States and a former President of the United States, that they are a king. They have granted monarch-like powers to Donald Trump and declared him immune from prosecution for any acts that can be declared official acts. So any acts that he conducts as president, and said that any acts he conducts as president which may have resulted in crimes must be presumed to be official acts if they are done through the purview of the presidency. And he is only not immune from strictly personal acts. What that means in regular people terms is that as long as Donald Trump used the apparatuses of the presidency, he can kind of do anything.
But this isn't just about, I talked about this the other day, this isn't just about Donald Trump, though. That can apply to any president of the United States going forward, which Joy leaves that out. That's the thing I wonder. Again, if it was Joe Biden that was in this situation, would Joy have this opinion?
So when he ordered his Justice Department, or tried to pressure his Justice Department and threatened to install different people in the Justice Department to come up with fake evidence of voter fraud so that he could declare the elections in Michigan and Pennsylvania and Arizona and Georgia to have been invalid, he can do that. And all the communications that he had with the Justice Department, even if they were criminal in nature, are immune from prosecution and cannot be used by prosecutors, by Jack Smith and others. He can do it because he used the official instruments of the presidency. When he tried to pressure Mike Pence, including using a violent insurrection to pressure him to accept fake electors instead of the real ones, the Biden ones, to accept the electors of himself and Donald Trump instead, as long as he used the official apparatuses of the presidency to do it, he can do it. Presumably, if he were to use SEAL Team 6 to try to assassinate one of his political opponents, so long as he did it through the auspices of the presidency, let's say use the NSA to say, let me investigate the Bidens as a national security threat, and then we need to go ahead and assassinate them when they take a foreign trip. We'll just go ahead and use drones to assassinate them, let's say in a foreign country, and we'll use SEAL Team 6 to go in and get them like they got Bin Laden. As long as you do it through the official apparatuses of the presidency, he can do it.
What's funny about that is the first person who said that a president can do that, it was Joe Biden's social media buddy, Harry Sisson. He announced it on Twitter. He said that Joe Biden can do that and should do that to Donald Trump. And people were attacking him on Twitter saying, like, Twitter, you need to take this account down. He's issuing a threat towards Donald Trump. So it's funny that Joy is saying that Donald Trump can do that. But the first person who announced that publicly, it was Harry Sisson, the DNC influencer, and he was saying that Joe Biden should do that to Donald Trump. It goes both ways.
He can do anything. When you're president, they let you do it. That's what they just ruled today, including two members of the court whose wives are insurrectionists. They did not recuse from that case. Clarence Thomas and Alito ruled in that case, in which John Roberts wrote the majority opinion. Let me read you what Sonia Sotomayor wrote for the three liberal justices, really the only justices that actually care about the Constitution. The Biden will not provide a backstop, And then she added something that's never been included in a Supreme Court dissent that anyone can think of, even Plessy, none of them. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. This is DEFCON 1, friends. This lady has fear for our democracy because of the 6 other people on that court who care not about democracy, who have essentially said, on the eve of the celebration of July 4th, Independence Day, that we do have a king, that our president is, in effect, a king, and that as long as they use the apparatuses of government, and this is on the heels of them saying that bribes are legal. Because remember, what Donald Trump's argument was that the only thing you can do, the only recourse if a president commits a crime is that you have to impeach them and convict them, which has never happened, a conviction. Do you know what you impeach people for? Treason and bribery and other high crimes and misdemeanors. Treason, which generally would mean trying to overthrow the government. They've taken that off the table. Bribery, well, they just previously took bribery off the table because they said as long as you pay the bribe after the acts are done by the public official, the elected official should not get paid in advance. They should just get paid after they do what you want. That's a gratuity, not a bribe.
I'm sorry, but Congress still has the power of impeachment. Congress can still file for impeachment. We talked about this the other day when this was announced from SCOTUS. I'm like, people said, how do you hold the president accountable? And I said, well, that's what Congress is supposed to be there for. They can file articles for impeachment.
So they've taken bribery off the table. So who gonna check them, boo? How are you going to impeach a president for treason and bribery when they just said treason is legal as long as you use the apparatuses of the presidency to commit said treason? And bribery is legal because all you have to do is call it a gratuity. So they've taken off the table the only other thing that the Trump lawyer said you could do to a president if they commit crimes. So essentially, the presidency is now officially above the law. Well, who?
It was always above the law during the presidential term. Like, you couldn't arrest a sitting president during that term. You can after their term is over. So it was weird to me that Joy was just all of a sudden making it seem like now all of a sudden the president would be above the law. As you're the president of the United States, no, they cannot criminally, they can't arrest you while you are president. So I didn't understand why this seemed to be a surprise to her. And then also, this is not something that is exclusive to Donald Trump. That would apply to presidents going forward. So I'm sure, Joy, you would have no problem if the next president is a Democrat again in office and they're faced with the situation. I'm sure you'd have no problem with it, right? This is the partisan game. The partisan game, which is just a hot mess. And one more part here, and then I'm going to show you about Project 25, what people are leaving out.
Thought leaders. I no longer care. Doesn't matter to me anymore. It's above me now. It's above me now. There's a Waffle House next door. There's a Best Western next door as well. It's above me now. It's above Joe Biden now. Don't care about Joe Biden's age, infirmity, that he shuffled when he walked. I don't care. He could be seated for the rest of from now to election day and never get up off a chair. He could sit down. He could roll around in a wheelchair. He could be on a skateboard, seated. I don't care. Donald John Trump cannot be allowed back into the White House. Because if you combine that madman with this court, 2 of whose members are insurrectionists one of whom flew an upside down flag at his home and blamed it on his wife, who's also crazy. The other of whom's wife literally was part of the insurrection. And they ruled in this. They put themselves in the Leonard Leo 6. They went ahead and ruled on this with no shame. You combine this court, 2 of whose members are going to immediately resign and put 30-year-olds in there, including probably the guy who wrote the opinion in the Beaters case, meaning that Beaters should be able to get machine guns, which, by the way, they have now arrogated to themselves the power to decide all federal rules. Everything, whether your plane that you fly in is safe, how much carbon can be in the atmosphere, how much filth can be in your water. They said agencies that have experts can't decide that. They will decide that. So they are kings, and Trump is king. You put him in the White House, combined with this court and a Republican House and Senate, we're done, y'all.
Joe Biden would be king too. So is Joy against all presidents being king, or is she just against Donald Trump being king? This is something we need to think about. We need to ask Joy. I want to show you something about Project 25. It's really short and quick. I think a lot of people are not mentioning this. Everyone keeps talking about Project 25 that Joy was referring to there in the Heritage Foundation. So Project 25 is a part of the Heritage Foundation, but the Heritage Foundation wasn't just unique to the Republican Party. It was also a part of Barack Obama. Look at this. Check this out, fam. Where did the idea of Obamacare come from? A defense of the Heritage Foundation. This is in Forbes. This was written February 15, 2016. On more than one occasion, President Barack Obama has said that the core idea behind Obamacare came from the Heritage Foundation, and PolitiFact rates the claim as mostly true. You can look this up for yourself. If you Google Heritage Foundation Obamacare, it's all on their website. Where do people think that the ACA came from? This is where this came from. So what that tells you, it says more than one left of center commentator has made the same charge, often tracing the lineage from the Heritage Building in Washington, D.C. to Mitt Romney's health reform in Massachusetts to the Obama administration. Most recently, John Aravisis, writing at the American Blog, claimed that the core idea behind Obamacare comes from the 1989 lecture by Stuart Butler, then a health economist at Heritage. The same notion is almost as common on the right as it is on the left. So you can look this up and you'll see, in fact, we'll do that right now if it'll let me go to Google. Let me go to Heritage. I can't see now. Oh, things in the way. Sorry. Heritage Foundation, ACA. Here it is, right on their website. The Heritage Foundation, assuring affordable health care for all Americans. And you can look this up yourself. Eric, feel free to give people this link so they can look over this. I've already read over it. But what it tells you is this. Looks like the Heritage Foundation has been working on both sides. Looks like the Heritage Foundation is not just unique to the Republican Party. As I said again, one corporate party. That's really what we have in the US. Yeah. Those of us in Massachusetts, we knew that Obamacare was just Romney care. He got it from us. Was it, you know? I told you a lot of times these things happen in the states first.